you so much, everybody, for tuning in.
Just ripping. Tuesday night, 8:30 EST. Know where we be. Just ripping. Special guest and second talk. A musicology. Just ripping. Coming to you live at the same time. Here every week. Just ripping. Jump in the room. Let's chop it up. It really ain't that deep. Just ripping.
Oh my gosh, I was having such trouble on my side. I had Instagram open that's going live. So I was hearing this echo and I was like, what's going on? No, this is not happening today. Anywho, this is one of your hosts, Hefner. This is Just Riff, and we do this every Tuesday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I got my co-host in the building with us, J6C6, aka Cookie Rabinowitz. We have an amazing guest on the show tonight, Cookie. Cookie is at the club. What's going on tonight, Cookie?
Not much, but I love poking my head up in this little thing. Wait, hold on. How do I do it? Can you see it?
Yeah, you got hair now.
Yeah,
Look at you, bro. By the way, real quick, did you hear any echoing going on during that intro?
The only echo I heard was the roar of the crowd for Just Riffin' and Audius tonight and our very special guest.
That's right. Absolutely. Everybody, we have Ronil Rumberg from Audius. He's the co-founder. Very, very, very smart guy. And super excited to chat with him tonight. They're doing amazing things over at Audius. We're going to get into it with them, find out what's going on, what makes them tick, what makes Audius tick, and why Audius is even Audius. So yeah, so that's really good. Well, what's going on in you know, since we've last spoke? Since
what I mean, with me personally, or what things I've been checking out? Anything in particular?
It doesn't matter. Anything could be you personally. What you've been checking out.
Okay, I like that. I've been, it's very timely that we have Audius on tonight because, I've just really been looking at different ways to release music to the public and to distribute, and that type of thing. Oh, here's a fun thing. So I wanted to do some fun things. The talk box effect. Like Peter Frampton, Bruno Mars at the beginning of whatever 20. So I wanted one of those talk boxes, so I didn't want to buy one though. So last night, like late night, I decided, okay, I'm going to build one out of old shit around my house. So I took this old amplifier I had, and I took a funnel from the kitchen, and I glued it to the speaker, and I connected a tube that I had for a humidifier to the tube. And I videotaped this whole thing. I might actually put it, and then it worked actually. I stuck the tube in my mouth, and I started playing guitar through it. And it was really cool, with the exception of the isolation. Like when you get these things, the speaker that projects the sound to the tube is very isolated, the sound from coming out of it. And I couldn't really do that with the old amplifier I had laying around. So that was the downside. But if I put the amp in another room, it would work like $1 million. But anyway, that was a fun little thing I did last night.
Hell yeah. LT is in the chat. He says, what's up? What's good, LT? Line Trash. He's doing that artwork for us. And Ronil, I know he's out there listening. So there's a second flyer that we did for the show. And we have a dude by the name of Line Trash, who's one of the really good friends of us and a good friend of the show as well. And so he's doing these really, really cool pieces of art that we use for the flyers. And then we're eventually going to auction these things off. And give the proceeds to the artist, all the proceeds, because Just Riffin', we're not doing it for us, we're doing it for him. So that's that. And but that's cool, Cookie, that you try to at least do that, and get that going. There was last week I was telling you about sim racing, and the guy's name escaped me, but his name escapes me again. It's David Henry, and David Henry, I believe that's his name. He is I think he's the CEO of the Boston Red Sox. And so when I was talking to you about the iRacing, they actually have a race team called Roush Fenway. Fenway, obviously Fenway Park, Boston, where the Red Sox play. And they're partners with Roush Racing, which is Jack Roush, who owns that. Just deep, old school, old school peeps doing the racing thing. So I wanted to bring that back up because I was listening to the show and I'm like, I'm Retardio's cousin. You know what I mean? I'm like, I couldn't believe I didn't remember the guy's name. But yeah, so that's that. I had a crazy week here. I'm in Florida, South Florida, so people gearing up for the hurricane, and we've had a lot of rain today. It kind of eased up a little bit at some point today, but yesterday's just straight pouring. And thank the Lord that it's dying down. Thank God that it's dying down, and it's gonna hit the west coast of Florida, so it'll be I think a level 3 hurricane. It did get up to as high as 180 miles per hour in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico, which is just bizarre. I can't even think of that. How it even forms this way. There were some really, really cool images I posted on Twitter that were from like a space station. So you can actually see the hurricane from the top. It's pretty wicked. You can actually see the eye and how it's moving around. It's pretty intense how Mother Nature is. So I pray that everybody up north in Tampa got out. Sarasota, you got out. Anybody on that mid side of or mid part of Florida that's on the West Coast, yeah, just get out of Dodge. I hope you guys are able to do it because it's going to hit tomorrow. So we've been kind of dealing with that stuff, and I'm glad that it's not coming down south. We will get the outer band, but that's pretty much about it. And we keep it moving, to the KIM. So
Right on.
let's get into the 2-minute tune-up. I'm curious what you got today. The 2-minute tune-up, where Hefner and J6 have 2 minutes exactly to respond to each other's topic of the week. Just riffing. Okay, excellent. We're back. This is Just Riffing. We do this every Tuesday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, powered by Rug Radio. Cookie Rabinowitz, Hefner, and our special guest tonight, Roniel Rumberg from Audius. He's the co-founder of Audius. So J6, what's your 2-minute tune-up? What do you got?
Well, I wanted to talk a little bit about multitasking and your views on it. And I want to say everybody does this nowadays. And I used to be amazing at multitasking. I used to work in a club just like this many years ago. And while I was DJing, I would build computers because back then it was a good hustle to like build people custom gaming computers and stuff. I'd build people computers while making people websites, while DJing at the club. And then when I'd get home, I'd have nothing but free time to make my music. And it was glorious. Nowadays, I don't multitask as well, and I take a lot of I take ginkgo biloba, I take lion's mane mushrooms. I try to keep my blood flowing, exercise and stuff. But I notice that when I multitask, I fuck up a lot. When I'm focused on one thing, I excel at it, and I'm trying to get back to that with music. I'm trying to just do music and write songs, and I'm just wondering how are you doing with I know you multitask a lot. You get a lot of shit done, and how do you do it? What's your secret? Because I need to step up my multitask game. Either that or cut everything out of my life except for songs and jams, which is really what I want to do. But you know what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. All right, so that's a good take. Good tune up there. Something to tune up to. So multitasking. I mean, I don't know if anybody really likes to multitask, and I think throughout life we all have to multitask. We just do it. It just happens. It's very. What I try to do is I might have a few different tasks in a day that I have to do. And nowadays, instead of just doing a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and a little bit of that, I'm just choosing a few of them. And then I'm going to complete one and then move to the next task. I don't try to just be all over the place and do it this way because I feel like at the end of it, it takes you forever to get one thing done. So I just try to stick to one thing, do that, and then move on to the next. Sometimes you have to multitask, but I try my best to do it in this manner so I don't go loony.
That seems like a really good approach. You just take little short bits, but go from beginning to end and then move on to the next thing instead of being a mess. I like it.
What I do sometimes, well, I do it mentally, but what I used to do is I used to take Post-its and I would write down my ideas and I would take those Post-its, I would put them all up on a board or on the wall or wherever. And then I would just look at it and I'd go, okay, that is not that important. We're going to pull that one down. And I would just get left with like 2 or 3 things that were really solid and important that I really, really needed to get done amongst everything else. And then I completed those tasks and then I would just do the board again and then rinse and repeat. And that helped me out a lot.
Good stuff. I like it. That was very very good information. I
Yeah.
like it.
You guys can send me a check. Just kidding. Just joking. All right. So my 2 minute tune up is based on confidence. So when I was 20, I'll just, see if I can do this within 2 minutes. When I was 20, I'd come home from the rehearsal studio probably about 5 o'clock in the morning. I would wake up at 5 p.m., head to the studio. I'd get home at 5 a.m. I would smoke a blunt back then. That's when I was like, hip hop, and I'd smoke a blunt and I'd fall asleep watching Comedy Central. I did this religiously for about a month, like straight, just doing that. And I one morning get home and I'm like, I could do that. I was 20 years old. And I was like, I could do that. I could do comedy. I could do that. I'm going to do that. And I actually went and I did it. It was an open mic night. It was like a Thursday night. First of all, my dad, because I was doing hip hop music, my dad never came to any of my shows. Just didn't like the music. He was listening to Frank Sinatra and Sam Cooke and just different musicians, Thelonious Monk. At any rate, he would come to the comedy. So that was a good thing. So I had like 4 of my good friends in the crowd, and the rest were just people I didn't know, and my dad was there. The owner of the club, it was called Coconuts. He's like, okay, Mike, you're going to go up 7th. I said, all right. He's like, okay, when you go up, you got 5 minutes. I'm going to hold this candle up, and then when I hold that up, your 5 minutes is up. Just end your set. I'm like, all right. So I didn't sit inside the club at all the whole time. I didn't want to watch any of the comedians. I just wanted to kind of get my own head together and stay clear. So I sat outside in the lobby during the whole show. He comes to get me at 7. I'm like, no, let me go on last. Let me go on last. So that happens. And he goes, okay, now it's last. He goes, okay, you're last. You ready? I'm like, fuck. Okay. So I just chugged the beer and I ran up on stage, and I stayed up there for about 15, 20 minutes. I literally forgot most of the material. I remembered a joke when I was a kid, and I stretched this one joke out for probably a good 10 minutes. So I just kind of riffed, no pun to our show, just riffed for about a good 5 to 7 minutes or so. And then the rest was just a long joke that I pretended that was real and made it sound real. And I just did it. And I remember getting off the stage, and the headliner was there for the weekend. To say, hey, to go up there and do 2 minutes and be like, hey, come back. I'll be here Friday and Saturday night. The friggin' headliner didn't even go on after me. I got off the stage and everybody got up like they thought I was the guy, the headliner. I swear, like that, that's at least what it felt like. And I remember making a beeline for my dad, and some lady's like tapping me on my shoulder, and she's like, "You're so funny. You're the best." I'm like, "It's my first night." She's like, "Oh my God, you're so funny." Even then, she thought I was joking. But my point here is confidence. And it was something that I thought I could do. And I just went and I did it. Now, it wasn't something that I wanted to do. I didn't really want to be a comedian. At least I wasn't that passionate about it after I was doing it for a couple months. Or maybe I wasn't that good at it. I don't know. But that night was amazing that night. And I did it for a few months, like I said, and I ended it. I just didn't want to keep doing it. I felt like it was very hard to write and come up with new material every day or every week. So I have a newfound, at that point, respect for comedians, because I know it's very difficult. So that's my 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes tune-up on
I
confidence.
like it. I like it, and I like the topic of confidence. I'm going to keep this really short because I'm really excited to talk to our guest. But I think I love the topic of confidence because I went through a long stretch where I lacked it, and I think it was due to when I was younger. I think I mistaken confidence for arrogance, and I think I had a lot of arrogance, but not confidence, and that arrogance doesn't really look good to other people. It's not, you don't want to work with arrogant people. At least I don't. I mean, I don't know about you. I don't care how good they are. If you're arrogant, I don't really want to be in the room with you personally. And I had a little bit of that when I was younger. I don't know why, maybe, but to make a long story longer, so then I went through a period of kind of being like, wow, and then having a lack of confidence because I realized maybe I might have appeared like an asshole to other people, even
Yeah,
though I
yeah.
had skills and ability at what I was pursuing, which was
Yep.
music and some other things. So I kind of went into a shell. And then, it's cool though to learn the hard way with things sometimes. And then, but I do understand it now. And I also understand you do have to be confident to get things done like you did there, you know. And when you're confident and you approach a situation without arrogance, uh, and you're confident because of the work you did, you put the time in, you paid your dues, and you deserve nothing else, but you deserve to feel like you're allowed to be doing what you're doing because you put your work in. Anything else is a bonus. But I do have that confidence now, and it's exciting for me because this is like kind of fresh, you know. And you know, confidence allows you to give and to serve society because you can't serve anybody if you don't believe in yourself, right? But
That's
anyway,
right. Yeah, yeah.
that's all I got.
I like it. Yeah, this is the truth, man. And you got to just, just got to do it. That's it. Don't be afraid. If you feel like you have a desire to do something, as long as you're not hurting yourself or anybody else, I'm talking like in a positive light, go and do it. You want to learn how to play drums, you want to play drums, you want to play guitar, you want to sing, you want to do any of this stuff, you want to dance, I don't know, anything. You want to juggle, go do it.
But put
Don't,
in the work. Put in the work so you deserve earn the confidence. Earn the confidence. Don't fake the confidence through arrogance. Earn the confidence.
yeah, don't fake the funk on a nasty dunk. All right. On that note, confidence, top notch here. All the way live from San Francisco, we have Roniel Rumberg. He is the co-founder and CEO of Audius, a music platform based around Web3 and the blockchain. Roniel, thank you and welcome to Just Riffin. How you doing today? How's life?
Hey, I'm doing great, man. Life is good. I actually moved out to Las Vegas a little while ago, so I'm out here and can't complain. It's like fucking 94 degrees still today, but soon it will cool off and be nice. And yeah, excited to be here today.
Excellent. Okay, so sorry about that, everybody. Not San Francisco, Las Vegas. Have you been to any Raiders games, by the way? Have you gone to that?
I haven't. I think so. I grew up in DC when I was a kid. I remember going to. I think at some point they came and played at FedEx Field. So I haven't been since then. That was when they were Oakland, though. I think.
Yeah, right on. And Washington was the Redskins at that time, I'm sure, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. A little bit. It's like a woke NFL now. All right, so Audius. Let's talk, Roniel, about Audius. Audius is like something really good for the musicians. And so I want to get to the meat and potatoes. First of all, you went to Stanford and, studied computer science. So how and why did Audius come about? How are you utilizing, what you knew and bringing it into this world of music? And why music? Why not some other tech thing, Why
Yeah,
music?
that's a great question. Really, it happened from so my co-founder Forrest and I were both in computer science together. We kind of did our little school projects and stuff together, and then worked on a handful of things after school. After school, I spent a couple of years at a venture firm in Silicon Valley. So I did live in San Francisco for many years, and then my co-founder Forrest started another company. It was like this sort of data center analytics thing. I won't bore you all with the details, but yeah, the timing aligned for us to work on something together. And I guess where Audius came from was we were both rabid SoundCloud users for many years, especially during our college years, right? That kind of 2011 to 2014, 15, our college years very much aligned with SoundCloud's rise and sort of time of prominence. But around 2014, 2015, it felt like our community there kind of died, right? And I think a lot of SoundCloud users at that time felt the same. It was combination of SoundCloud changed a lot of the policies that they had in place towards how they treated independent content, that is content not owned by major rights holders, and kind of started to favor the content that was being placed there by some of the major labels, publishers, etc. It was a very rapid sequence of changes, felt very tone deaf to the community, and a lot of the folks in that community there was this exodus that happened. A lot of the creators that we were following, at least, kind of decamped from SoundCloud. But with that decampment and subsequent fragmentation of all of those amazing creators, that community never came back together anywhere. Sorry. So it was like 2-3 years after that we were thinking about different things we could work on together. We'd actually had this idea for like a new generation SoundCloud that was owned, operated, controlled by the community, that made it special, when that was happening. So he and I had spent some time working on things in crypto, and that was in school. My area that I spent time on in research and working was distributed systems. So that kind of naturally led me to looking at crypto things, spending time in crypto. So we were like, hey, here's the stuff we know. Here's this problem that we really care a lot about. Like, let's put them together and see what happens. And that was, I guess, 7 years ago. So,
yeah. How long did it take? Like, once you guys got the notion going, that there's a flaw here with SoundCloud, if you're using SoundCloud as a base, and then your own ideas and going, how can we make something like that, which is already kind of done? How can we make that and build on that and make it better? When did you guys start that? When did you realize that you actually were onto something? When did you start testing? When did you come to realization that it was something that you could actually do?
Yeah, so the project kind of officially kicked off, started in early 2018. I want to say like March or so was, I think, when we were like, all right, like, we're going to try and do this, see what we can do. We built like a very, very rudimentary prototype in like a week or two, just to prove that, like, technologically what we wanted to do was possible with IPFS, and Ethereum at that time was kind of where metadata was sort of broadcast. But basically, could we actually, like, when you upload a track, like, timestamp that on chain, and then anchor data that's being stored in a handful of IPFS nodes in those on-chain transactions. And we were like, all right, like, we can, we kind of like prove that, okay, this is possible. Of course, it takes a whole lot more work to get to like a real thing. So it took us another like 8-9 months to get like an alpha together. And this was like a very, very half-baked thing, right? But it was enough that we could start showing it to people. And there's the whole story of how we tested it and grew it up from there. But that was kind of how we got things moving in the early days.
And this is, if I can remember correctly, because sometimes it's bad, always, 420 moments over here. You said Peter is your co-founder?
Forrest is his name. Forrest. Yeah.
I don't know how the hell I got Peter. Anyway, so Forrest, you and Forrest get together, you get this idea. Was there anything before Audius? And I'm sure it wasn't called Audius in the beginning, or was it?
It was. We didn't even have a name at the very beginning. So no, there was nothing before that. Yeah.
All right. So was there anything, not name wise, but was there anything that you and Forrest said, let's try, I don't know, anything else, and then that didn't work, and then you ended up coming to the music? Was there anything before this, or was it just you guys were like the music and attacked it with the knowledge that you have?
Oh, there was lots of stuff before this. There always is, right? I think anyone who's telling you otherwise is probably not being honest. I don't think there's some, like, divine, moment of inspiration that then leads to this sort of 7-year journey subsequently, right? We worked on a bunch of random stuff, everything from we built this, AI summarization kind of thing, and then didn't know how to sort of bring that to market. So we started with a market that I knew, which was like VCs, and started, we kind of wrap that summarization thing in a email newsletter product. So as a VC, you have your list of companies that you're tracking in your CRM. You could connect that to this tool and get summaries of all the news about those companies on a recurrent basis. So we actually did, build and ship that. But yeah, kind of, that was probably the most baked of those ideas, but most of them were, just like toys.
It's very cool though, because you have this amazing knowledge that not many people have, that you got to be really smart to kind of to do that, to write that. Like, I can't write a code. I couldn't tell you like, yeah, this has to go to this node and that node. I'm lost. I'm investing in you, because you got the know-how. So when you're doing these things, it's amazing to me because you actually, can think it. It's sort of like in a musician as well, that's really good, that can think what they want to play. And then it's coming through the fingers. It's like you're thinking what you want to build and it's coming through your brain, going through your fingers, and you're actually creating something. How long does, I know you're on a 7-year journey, but how long does it take to like have it completed? Or is this something that's continuously growing and that you guys are continuously feeding?
Yeah, I think it's never done. I feel like I was telling someone this the other day. I don't know if anyone listening, or if you all ever play like RTS or real time strategy games. When you like walk around, you uncover a little more of the map, and that slowly happens. I think this is similar, right? Like as you make a little more progress and you build, you uncover more of the map, but in doing so, you actually gain more of a perspective for how big the map is and how like kind of overwhelmingly large it is, to a point that and something you mentioned kind of was interesting, which was that hey, like we went and we did these things. I think a lot of the mindset of hey, we're just gonna like work on stuff, it was kind of a combination of naivety towards like how hard and complicated and how long these things would take, that we were just like, hey, let's just like build stuff and see what happens, combined with that kind of ignorance. I guess that, or sorry, not ignorance is actually not the right word, more like low expectations, right? That we were like, hey, like whatever, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Like, go do something else. It's fine, right? Like when the stakes are low and when you're very naive to like the complexity of what you're undertaking, that like beginner's luck, if you will, I think actually really helps in these kinds of things. Same way as for musicians, right? Like I think if someone truly knew how hard it would be to break out, to like build an audience, to do all of that, right? Like I don't know how many people would really like go do it, but we're all young and dumb at some point, and that actually helps us, I think, right? Like
For sure. It's interesting too. I actually started experimenting with Audius. I think in 2021, I uploaded a track, and I noticed you were talking about how the journey kind of expands and and it seemed like there was this token audio, okay, and I guess the nodes. That's how that's all proof of stake, if you will, and I would hear a lot of backlash from musicians that were releasing and doing projects on chain, saying, well, you don't really get paid. It's like they had created something to respond to other streaming platforms, but yet the artist really doesn't get paid from it. And I noticed as of recently, you guys have been, and we're talking about this growth, you've been changing some things like that the artist could be supported through stable coins. I think it's USD. And it's right in the app. I actually, I've had the app on my phone since 2021, and I open it every now and again. And it's like anything else. Like where an artist distributes your music, you can't just set it and forget it. You got to work it. So I really haven't worked Audius, so I wouldn't expect much from it. That's not your responsibility to promote my music. But the platform is very slick, and it looks really cool, and it's easily navigatable. And it was funny, even back in the NFT heyday, you guys were supporting like Solana NFTs in the app and stuff. It was pretty neat. I guess my question is, how long has it been since you incorporated this stable coin, and how does it actually work? Like, let's say if Hef has a song on Audius, and then I stream his song, I believe he gets audio token, and then if I wanted to support him outright, I would get some stable coins in my wallet. And is it a tip? Is that how it works? Is it a tip, or am I purchasing merch? If you could elaborate on that a little bit.
Yeah, totally. So, and I think some of the criticism that you mentioned from that 2021-22 era was super well founded for what it's worth, right? Like I kind of, I feel like we've gone through different phases of our growth, but like phase one for us was really about getting artists tools that could help them build an audience and give them fun things to do and engage them, but it wasn't about making money as an artist yet, right? The thinking was we need to, like, the harder problem to solve first was like getting an actual group of people here who could transact with you over time, right? And then phase two for us was really layering monetization into those tools. So there were all these different ways that you could, as an artist, engage your fans on Audius. We wanted to start to effectively like give artists the ability to toll those things. So you could say, hey, there are certain kinds of ways that you engage with me that you now need to pay me for. And to your question, it's all direct USDC payments from fan to artist that the network actually, the Audius network of nodes that are hosting content and whatnot, actually recognize and then can release access to something, upon successful payment. So, Cookie, if you like have a track and you mark it as a paid track, for example, you can set any price you want. And then I can't actually listen to it unless I pay you the price that you've outlined. And then once I pay you, the network will actually let me retrieve that track, and then I can go listen and whatever. So yeah, that's kind of the. There's some more complexity I'm glossing over, but that's like it in a nutshell. It's basically being able to charge for these different types of interaction with you as an artist, and I think the community's focus right now is really on expanding the different kinds of behaviors that you can charge for.
That's
That's pretty
interesting.
cool. I was
Yeah.
sorry, I want to ask one other question,
Go
Hef,
for
real
it, go for it.
and then I think I saw, which I really dug this, and I noticed there's some other platforms I think that are following the lead of this. But you have a way for artists and fans to interact and engage directly with each other, like in other words, like some chat type of stuff. And I think that's really cool. And maybe is that something the artist gates as well, like to certain fans or
Yeah, so you mentioned tipping. So tips are also supported, and you can gate the ability to send a direct message on whether someone has tipped you. And I think soon we'll be rolling out like, you have to tip a certain amount or a threshold to be able to access that too. But yeah, like a lot of the exactly to your point, like being able to look at every nexus or every way that a fan can interact with an artist, and giving the artist the ability to set prices for those forms of interaction. And that's really at a fundamental level what Audius is. It's meant to be this free market for engagement and content, where as an artist you can set whatever price you want, but as a fan, you can choose to engage or not engage with those things, right? So it's just a philosophically very different kind of approach to the sort of Spotify, like one size fits all. Like, you put your music into the black box and the black box gives you money, but you don't really control any of these things. It's, that model works. And I actually think it's a good model. It arguably saved the music industry, right, from kind of ruin that digital created in the early 2000s. But it's like an all-you-can-eat buffet, right? And I feel like there needs to be space for more diversity in the kinds of ways that we as fans get to interact with the artists that we care about, right? So that's really kind of how we're trying to approach this. But yeah, lots more work to do to get to that ideal.
That's awesome. That's great that, you're doing this as for us, it's important to know that the musician really is getting, their due. Uh, Spotify is not paying anything for these musicians. They're not making it. It's so hard to make money. You got to be on that Beyonce, Taylor Swift level somewhat, where you're going to see anything. A lot of people just end up chasing their tails through a platform like that, and it sucks. So do you feel like, Audius can combat that? Do you feel like Audius has something more than what they're giving? And then if you do, how do you get to the masses? Because Spotify is like one of those things where, it could be anybody, your mom, your grandma, she's listening to music. She's either going YouTube Music, Apple Music, or, Spotify for the most part. How do they get to Audius? How does the mainstream people get to Audius?
Yeah, so great question, and probably the one we spend more time kind of thinking about and spending time on than really almost anything else in what we do. So Audius today actually serves a few million fans every month. Now, most of those fans aren't yet paying for things or transacting with things, but I think we've been able to prove that it's possible to build a fully decentralized kind of product experience that looks and feels really indistinguishable from like a normal Web2 product. Like Cookie, I don't know how it was when you uploaded, when you've used the app, but like if we did our jobs right, or if we met the bar that we try to hold ourselves to, you shouldn't have had to know or think about crypto at all, right?
I just want to say, from day one, I thought that the app was very slick, very cool. And I wanted to add a couple things. There was one glitch though. When I would log in on the web browser version, I always, and I still to this day, I believe, get the security warning. I want to say that. So maybe it's something weird with me, but you know what I'm saying? That security, hey, this might be a malicious site, which I know your site isn't malicious. And in the crypto world, you get that sometimes with different things.
Oh, you mean like the SSL, the HTTPS?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, so I thought that was peculiar, but the phone app and the downloadable app on the computer are amazing, but the browser. But I wanted to say another thing too. I also noticed that early in the game when I was messing with it, not only did I did love the app, the functionality of it, and the way it looked and the way it felt. But I noticed you guys did a lot of work too, to what Hef was saying. You guys had a lot of marquee acts submitting songs on there, like big names, and I was like, wow, you guys are really going for it, because I know that's probably, I mean, at that time, I guess maybe crypto was kind of buzzing a little bit. Some of these apps wanted to dip their toe in the water, so to speak, and but I think nowadays crypto has such a bad rap with the main the marquee artists, like they're kind of afraid to touch it. But back when you guys were starting it, you guys definitely did your due diligence. Like, let's see, we see Dead Mouse on there. There's a bunch of them. Zed. I even saw Weezer had a song on there. There was what's this? Yeah,
I love Weezer. One of my favorite bands.
So
yeah, like we really did try to make the experience as smooth as we could, and to your point, yeah, I think we were able to serve a lot of everyone from household names to plenty of creators who were making their first beats in their bedroom, right? And I'm bummed to hear about that security issue. So I think we actually had got that sorted a few years ago, but it was a weird interaction between MetaMask and us. So MetaMask added a site to this like phishing sites list that is very similar in name to our site, and it's a fuzzy match that they do. So we would get flagged as that too. I think to my knowledge, at least, has been solved for a couple of years. If you try it now, fingers crossed that hopefully you won't run into any phishing warning or anything else. It's just Audius, audius.co. Though actually there are a lot of phishing sites that have been impersonating Audius too. So it is possible you ended up on one of the
for
fake,
sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And I just want to say, I didn't, you know what? I never had any doubts in, the integrity behind the site itself, because I did my due diligence ahead of time. So I knew it was just some kind of weird thing. So I'm
glad to hear that, man. But yeah, it's important, right? Like that's that issue scared away so many folks when it came up, because like, again, we're targeting kind of the non-crypto native user, the person who's that's a scary thing, right?
Yeah,
It's
you're
like this
already
big
weary of the
red page that is like angry, and it's like, you will lose money if you use this site, and it's a very bad like warning, right? And it wasn't true, to your point, Cookie, but it's still like, it's a scary thing, right? So anyway, we take that that kind of stuff very seriously, but it's just frustrating, right? That, when these things happen, and the best we can do is, you can't prevent all of that. You just try to get it fixed as quickly as you can, right? And yeah,
I mean, it's hard to police that, right? You got to have probably a team just on that to watch that all the time, or to get that through the pipeline cleared out, clear the cash, so to speak. Interesting though. Okay, so yeah, let's stay on the topic of having big name people coming over to Audius, and being a little bit weary now because maybe they're not fully understanding. Do you yourself think that the artists that are influential enough to bring the independent artist over, do you think they understand Audius? Do you think they understand the power of what you guys have built and what you guys are building? Do you think they understand the blockchain and how they can utilize Web3 and the blockchain for music and to take more control over their livelihood?
Yeah, I do think so. There's levels of understanding, right? But I don't think you really need to understand like the technical architecture of how Audius is built, or any of this, to really be able to understand like, what can Audius do for you, which is, it gives you the power to own your own audience and to control your pricing, right? And it's really those two things that form the bedrock of this kind of free market for artists to engage with their fans, that we see as kind of our key differentiators compared to like the channels that exist. But I think also what's helped us a lot is there's a common misconception that Audius and Spotify are sort of competing with one another, that Audius is trying to go after that same kind of market that Spotify is, and it couldn't be further from the truth. Like, the way that we see big artists using Audius most successfully today is to give their most highly engaged fans kind of a differentiated experience from what they're getting on mass market streaming. But it doesn't replace that, right? Like, I think mass market streaming is still a great tool to build an audience. Hefter, to your point though, Spotify is not paying out a lot, right? And I do think that's where we're able to move the needle forward for a lot of folks, right? I think this amount fluctuates, but right now I think it's about 4/10 of a cent is paid out per stream on Spotify, and what that ends up meaning is 1 million streams nets you on the order of like $4,000, right? Yeah. We've had artists on Audius earn upwards of 20 or 30 grand from like a few hundred fans, right? When they're setting the price on something at $50 a pop, there's this producer Cato that had a really successful campaign selling stems doing this. The sort of aspiring music producer segment of his fan base were super excited, happy to pay $50 to get that and to make something of their own with it. And then they actually went and uploaded what they created with those stems back to Audius, and Cato went and listened to them and kind of gave people feedback and stuff on a live stream just like this. So like when you kind of break that sort of very rigid structure that streaming has, I think there's a lot of opportunity for kind of different ways to engage fans like this. And when you think about how many streams it would take to get to that level of revenue, it's very meaningful, right? It can really make a difference for folks.
That's right. So you mentioned marketing. What does Audius do? Any marketing for the artists? Is there Well, yeah, that's a good question there. Do you do any marketing for the artist? Are you marketing the artist, or is when you're doing the marketing, is it strictly for Audius?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a combination. So we do help artists with marketing to some extent, but most of things are kind of self-serve in our case. So the typical playbook for how someone is kind of finding success on Audius is they, create an account, they start engaging with things. They maybe upload one or two tracks for free and use that as a means of bootstrapping or building an audience that's native to this platform. And then with some audience pulled together, they could start sharing monetized content, and because they have an audience already there who then gets notified when they're sharing something or posting something new that's monetized, that kind of creates that sort of feedback loop that leads to good outcomes. So we do try and help on the marketing side as much as we can, and then the other source of a lot of that bootstrapping engagement is the existing Audius community. So there's kind of a thriving Discord community and Telegram and other places that folks can drop in and say, hey, like I just shared something for the first time, like check it out, give me feedback, right? Like that. And when the folks who approach it really with some humility like that tend to get a lot of value back from the tools in return. But I think that is the biggest difference, though, between not just us, but like any of these sort of like direct to fan engagement sort of tools, like crypto or not. Generally, how successful you are is a function of how much work you put in. Whereas on Spotify and whatnot, like there's no nexus for you to actually put in work, right? Like you're just putting music into this box, and then the box gives you money, and you don't really have many levers to try to impact how much money the box is giving you, right?
You have options. Like Audius gives you the options. Does Audius also give the artist, the musician, options to upload video? Is it like a profile that they have? Like what's on the back end for them? But also to add to this question is, with this marketing question, is a lot of artists, if they artists want to be independent. They want to be major independent. Like they want to be heard and known on a major scale. They want the fame like Taylor Swift and like these big name artists. I use her because she's the biggest one that I know, right? But they want to all get out there, get up and out, but they want to also make their own money. For years, the music industry has been corrupt. And musicians are tired of that. They're putting their sweat, their blood, their tears onto that product, onto that project. And they don't get anything in return. They, most of the time, end up owing money back to the record label, right? Because there was 30 sandwiches that they needed for that, video shoot that they didn't need or didn't know that they even were paying for it, right? So there's all those things that get twisted in there. And a lot of people don't know. They learn the hard way when they do that. Coming to Audius, does Audius have anything that teaches these young musicians or these young artists that are coming over to a platform like yours because they see that they can actually be independent and they can make more money with Audius than they can with Spotify? I mean, look, with hard work, you have to promote yourself. You have to do it. You can't just like expect it to just, your song, just because you have an amazing song, it needs to get heard and you need to push it out there. But does Audius have those tools for the musician, the independent musician, to boost themselves?
Yeah, so the tools are there, but to your question, no, I don't think the education really is there yet. That's actually the biggest focus, or one of the biggest focuses right now of the team that I work with, is really building up collateral and playbooks, right? Like you could actually, look at a case like Cato, the producer that I mentioned, and look at how he achieved that success and replicate it, right? If you have an audience that's sort of a similar composition, if you're a producer, that kind of thing, similar cases with other artists, right? We really need to do more there to kind of it is a different model, right? And I think in over the last year or so, it was a year ago that the monetization tooling on Audius first went live, and it was actually just 2 weeks ago that that fully opened up publicly. So prior to that, it was in like a beta among existing users. It wasn't available to new users who signed up after that time. So it's still early days. I think a lot of the artists that are using using these tools right now are still figuring out like what the best ways to incorporate them into their existing workflows are. And you know, we are fortunate to be in a position to kind of see what's working across the board and try to identify that. And now what we need to do is really document that and kind of take away the kind of salient learnings and share them more broadly to say, hey, like, you know, here's what is working. And like, if you want to try that, you try that. You can also try whatever you'd like, right? Like with great freedom in a way comes like great responsibility, right? And I think that's been one of the biggest issues with how open-ended a model like this is. So people just don't know where to start, right? It's like, you know, what do? You can upload something and you can make it $1, you can make it $100,000, and like, you know, there's no right answer to that question, right? It's just, yeah.
You know,
Go ahead.
I was just interested though, in both of your opinions. Can you guys hear me okay? I'm trying to kill the plosives for Minton. But anyway, I'm interested. People are so used to like, and I love the way you put the all-you-can-eat buffet, by the way, because it really is an accurate metaphor. But people are so used to the all-you-can-eat buffet that would you guys, and I know you're both serious music lovers, think people, the majority of people on this earth that consume music are open to be groomed to a la carte buy music again? Like, you know, hey, okay, there's an all-you-can-eat buffet, but I want, you know, 3 of these things from Hef, or, you know, and pay for them like that. Do you think people can be groomed to do that again, or do you think it might be too late?
Oh man, it's I happy to answer first and I'm curious what your take is too. But I think people you know, people can be groomed, I guess is the short answer. But you know, I think people already exhibit those behaviors today, right? Like, I mean, all of us, or I would imagine you two like to go see music live. We're happy to pay, you know, $100 or hundreds of dollars for a ticket to do that. I'm still happy to collect vinyl from artists that I like, right? And you know, it's I think there is sort of there is a segment of music fan that is willing to spend more. The people like us who are willing to spend more on things digitally. There's just not a nexus for us to do so. And what we've seen, at least in the year or so of data that we have from these tools being in market, is that if as an artist you can give a fan something they can't get anywhere else, their willingness to pay for that is pretty high. So we've seen everything from like exclusive releases, early windowed releases, you know, different cuts of a same track. We even saw, you know, there was a rapper who, like, you know, the first take of a track that ended up you know, being refined and doing really well. He did it, like, the idea came to him when he was in the shower, and like he recorded it into his iPhone. He uploaded that, right? Like, it's just it's this kind of different content that lets you, like, in some cases feel closer to that creative process the artist is going through. In other cases, you know, like either you're hearing something before people get to, or you're hearing something entirely novel and new and different. So those are the different ways we've seen people be successful. I don't think we're ever going to get people to pay for something that they can get in the all-you-can-eat buffet, right? Like if you're uploading the same track to Spotify and to Audius, and you're going to charge a few bucks for it on Audius, like why would someone? It doesn't make sense. So it's anyway, long answer, but yes, I think people will pay for things. We have seen them pay for things. It's I think especially the younger generations, right? So all three of us are a little on the older end, right? We still remember what it was like to collect CDs and stuff, and we still associate cost of something with a physical incantation of it, right? Like I still cringe every time I like do a micro transaction in the app store or whatever, right? There's something that feels like wrong about that from for the people who came of age in the 90s, right? But what we've seen among the younger end of our user base, they don't have that same kind of aversion to buying digital things.
They're in that quick phase. They're in that, they're used to that, whereas like I see what you mean, where the physical, you're used to getting that actual physical thing in your hand that you're paying for, right? Is that what
yeah. Or even a live show, there's something about, if you're like physically going somewhere and you perceive the value of that to be different in a way than a digital experience, right? But I do think that the kind of norms are shifting there in a positive way.
Yeah, I like your take on that. I think that's you touch on it. I think it's important. Your thought there with it, with adding to what you were saying. I really feel that physical, like what you said, is so valid that you can't just have a song that is on Audius, that's on Spotify and on YouTube, and it's over here, it's over there. You want to have something that's different, like the dude in the shower, like that's different, probably a one of one, and sold it, and whatever the deal was. But yeah, those type of things people live for. It's like going to the concert and you're waiting for the drummer to throw out the drumstick. You caught the drumstick, or the baseball or the bat or whatever the deal is, wherever you may be, holding that piece of physical thing that you kind of incorporates your mind with that show, and being there physically, as well. I think just physical is great. Digital is awesome. But, if you can maneuver and manipulate the sale of something by giving the consumer more bang for their buck, and something that they cannot get on any other platform that's exclusive to a specific place. Now it's up to the artist to push to get people to find them at Audius. It's Audius's job to promote wherever, whether it's on radio, broadcast, wherever. It's up to Audius, whether it's all over, Twitter. I don't know how Audius does their marketing, but it's up to Audius to get the consumers to Audius. It's up to the artist to get that consumer that's coming to Audius to find them. And when they find you, it's like finding a good artist, You see a painting, you're like, oh, who's that? It catches you. Like a physical, like, drawing artist, right? So you're going to go and you're going to be a fan. You're going to go look for that artist. You want to buy it. You want to be the one of the 150 that's getting that print. That's you. You want it. You want that. The same thing for a music artist. I always thought that's really cool. If you could you could be an artist and you can give away some cool things. You can give away that writing. You wrote it on a piece of paper. Like, I know the kids don't write on paper anymore, but we used to have pens, pencils, and there's physical paper. They make these out of trees, kids. Okay. So, but there are artists that actually jot their songs down on a piece of paper. Having that copy, or like that dude in the shower, that's special. That's something different that somebody can't get anywhere. And I really agree with you on that. And to Cookie's point, or to answer Cookie's question, I think having those physical things attached to your product or your brand, then it's going to push you and separate you from, first of all, the other platforms, but also from other artists that might not be doing that way. But again, they need to learn. They need to know how to do these particular things. A lot of artists, because like you say, they might come to the platform and now they start uploading. They're doing it wrong, right? They're doing it too fast. Take your time. Learn the proper way learn the importance of putting that song out with timing. build something around that song. Don't just be in a rush. This is just my opinion, obviously, but don't, as an artist, don't be in a rush just to get your music up and out. It will get there, and you want to do it the proper way, right around. And I think Audius can definitely help with that, if as far as the educational part goes, for artists that actually need that education.
Yeah, I do think we need to do better there, right? It's easy to say, oh well, you know, as the artist, like you got to learn this, you got to do it, but like we need to also, you know, make things easier, right? Make things more accessible and make it more straightforward. So
Make it make sense.
yeah.
Make it make sense for them, right? You know, like A connects to B, and then B is C, and then D is the pot of gold. Let's go. You know?
You got it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. So I want to move on to this publishing aspect of things, right? You guys opened up the door for, you know, musicians to get paid on the broadcast side. So when the songs are being played, is this correct? If songs are being played or streamed through Audius, they're going to get their share.
Yeah, so you know, it's all part of this kind of broader effort and push towards monetization. So both on the performance rights side, so Audius has deals with all the major U.S. PROs, and you know, soon there will be more news on the international front as well, and then also with some of the kind of publishing community, then also with a number of labels, right? So we have deals in place with Empire, with Anjuna, with a number of folks on the label side. We have a deal with Cobalt on the publishing side. We have the kind of the performance rights. So I do think yeah, this is kind of going all the way back earlier into the conversation about like independent versus you know, being signed, right? And that kind of that fork in the road that really, to a lot of artists today, I think feels like these very different and mutually exclusive paths, right? It's like you can either, you know, basically try to be like Taylor Swift or whatever, and like go for broke and go as big as possible. But if you can't quite get there, you basically make nothing, right? Or you try to go independent, you build up in a grassroots way. You know, what we're seeing more and more of is kind of this third category of artists that, you know, is rather than signing, you know, broad long-term licensing deals with a label and getting a big advance, they're signing over like a release here and there, and to different labels in different times, and even different publishers at different times. And so the artists kind of maintaining more agency over their work on an ongoing basis, but they're still leveraging some of the scale of distribution that comes from these existing institutions. And you know, Audius's efforts on this front to try to better integrate with the bigger music industry, like I think from our perspective, we don't take an opinion on whether one of those paths is the right or the wrong one, right? I think we feel very strongly that regardless of what path you are on, your content is treated equally on Audius, and there's no favoritism or kind of difference in how royalties are paid out, how revenues generated, anything like that, irrespective of which path you go, right? But beyond that, you know, if someone wants to be signed, if they want that big advance, we'd say, hey, more power to you, but like go in eyes wide open, knowing what you're doing. If you want to stay fully independent, that's great too, and we can serve both of those paths equally well. The you know, difference, of course, being you know, in how much of the top line revenue you're generating on Audius is making it back to you as an independent. Of course, all of that comes back to you. If you're working with some of those parties, you know, it doesn't. So so that's really how we've approached this. But with that lens, you know, and with that fundamental principle that kind of you know, having licensed, institutionally owned licensed content on Audius coexisting with independent content, like, can't change and will never change the economic kind of remuneration structure that the independent side gets. It's really only possible with a model like this, right? Because as an artist on Audius, you are setting your own pricing. You know exactly how much you will make every time someone engages with, or purchases something from you. Licensed content living alongside of that doesn't change it. Whereas like in the case of Spotify, for example, it's this zero sum thing. If content A is getting listened to more and content B is listened to less, like more listening of A actually means less money paid to B. You know, if you're generating the same amount of streams every month and content A is growing and growing, you actually earn less each month, which is like a really kind of fucked like pattern or way to, you know, excuse my language, right? It's just very kind of zero sum race to the bottom kind of structure that, you know, we're seeing it, you know, the late stages of, right, as sort of subscriber counts are plateauing, meaning, you know, money going into the black box is sort of plateauing, but more streams are coming out of it, right? And then you layer AI music on top of that now, and this, you know, just explosion of, you know, overall content being generated. All of that, you know, AI music, for example, is kind of devaluing the existing content on Spotify, right? The more music is there, the less every piece of music makes if you hold everything else constant. Whereas in the case of Audius, it doesn't matter, right? Like it's to what we just said, like you know, there could be 100 billion tracks on Audius, but if someone purchases something from you, you know exactly how much you're going to make, irrespective of what else is happening. So so that's kind of the key difference there, and I think that's what I actually positioned us pretty well to your question, to like be able to work with some of the legacy industry, right? Because it doesn't need to mean hurting the independent creators that, you know, helped grow Audius to the size it is today, right?
Yeah. 100%. You mentioned the pros. You mentioned the performance rights organizations, and I think that's great. You know that you're working with them so that way these artists can get paid. And again, like, you know, just throw it back there for education. A lot of artists don't know what a pro is. They don't know that they need to get publishing. They don't know that they need to take their lyrics or what they wrote and send it to the Library of Congress, you know, to get it copywritten. They don't know about trademarking. There's a lot of things that, you know, that education can definitely help some of those independent, you know, artists, especially the youth that's trying to get into doing music. They need to understand this. Now, I'm not saying this is Audius's responsibility, because it's definitely not your responsibility to teach, really, you know, those type of situations. More teach how to use your product, right? So it's not really your responsibility to teach about the other things. But I think it could be cool to have, you know, some of these major artists that you deal with, some of these major investors that you've dealt with in, you know, in the past and currently. You got these artists here that are major. They were at one point, if they're not now, major label artists. And then you got, I'm going to scroll down here to the artists that are investors: Katy Perry, Nas, the Chainsmokers, Pusha T, Aoki, and there's more that you obviously haven't put up there. But these people are the people that need to educate and teach. And, you know, if they're part of the Audius platform, it could be something cool to where, hey, Nas is here taking 5 minutes out of his day to explain to you what publishing is, or what copywriting is, or, you know, what a writer is when you go to do shows. So that's just my, you know, push as, you know, music, because I really feel that when I was a youth, we didn't have any of that. We had to figure it out by going and then living and learning, which is, you still need to do that. But I feel that in today's day and age, with the way social media is and how fast we get the information, and why not give the information right away? We know it. Why hold it back and not teach anybody about it? Like, you know, we got to be students and teachers, period, growing through life, right? So we learn as we're young, and we teach also as we're growing older. That's pretty much what it is. So I want to ask a couple questions here regarding, I guess maybe the monetization, but more or less, you know, buying something. You buy it with USD, right? Buy USD on Audius, but are you?
It's USDC on Solana, but you actually you can also use a credit card. We have a on-ramping partner that is able to kind of make that really seamless for folks. Yeah.
Okay. And now you got, like, you know, PayPal is now accepting crypto, and a lot of these other platforms are going to start accepting it because they know that it's inevitable. Crypto is not going anywhere. People are going to start using it, and they're using it already to buy things in stores. Not just like, the dude that's spent 2 Bitcoin or whatever it was for 2 pizzas, or I 10 Bitcoin for, yeah. So people are actually spending money wanting to, and people are wanting that are in Web3 and blockchain. They want to use it. They want to use their digital wallet. They want to walk in a 7-Eleven. They want to go, pay for something, on Audius or, wherever they're going to, get gas, pump gas with the crypto that you just, that's in your wallet. Right. So that was one of my questions there, which was, are there other networks like Base or like Sol that people can utilize on Audius? Like, let's say they wanted to use Base. Is Base plugged into Audius? Is Sol plugged into Audius? Is ETH, these different networks that are plugged in for payment?
Yeah, on the payment side, it's all Solana. Just the size of payments, being on average pretty small, means like ETH would be pretty challenging, right? For if you're paying like $2, right, and paying a $3 transaction fee, that's not really going to work. We would be super excited to integrate more payment channels. I think what we generally the way these things go, it's someone in the community is actually proposing that or kind of pulling together an effort to try to do that. We just haven't seen that happen yet, or we haven't seen anyone really kind of rally the troops, if you will, towards supporting Base or Arbitrum or any of the different layer 2s. For whatever it's worth, actually, our typical user doesn't have Sol USDC already, or USDC anywhere for that matter. They're generally using the credit card flow. So behind the scenes, that's remunerating in USDC back to the artist, and they're getting the benefits of instant payout and transparency around the payment flow, and the network can also see that payment and use that as proof to release access to content, that kind of thing. But our typical user just doesn't really care. I think it's like sub 2-3% or so, if I remember correctly, of payments on Audius are coming from USDC that someone already had in their wallet, right? So they have their Phantom or whatever that already has USDC, and then it's super smooth, right? Like, you all know how easy that is versus having to put in a credit card. But I think it's kind of a kind of an interesting dynamic where, like, our hope with this was to get the benefits that crypto payments can provide for artists without the baggage that they create around onboarding and everything else.
And the payout is direct. It's right away, right? So the artist wants to cash out, or they don't have to. It just goes directly into their wallet right away. But for the transaction is like this, yeah. I mean, I think ideally it would be great, Ronil, that one day that a wallet that is, like you say, working in the background, where the consumer just uses their credit card or they use their digital wallet once they get there, and whether it's using Base or whether it's using Sol or ETH, it just says it there, like, depending on what the artist wants to collect, and then it just works in the background. The artist doesn't need to know how the transaction is working, and neither does the consumer. They just want to buy it, get it fast, know that it's done, and that's it, and call it a day. So I think it will get there, and I think that's cool that it's direct. I want to ask you before I open it up, because I know Cookie has some questions as well. Major labels, they're coming. They're coming for you, Ronil. They're coming for Audius. So this is maybe a 2-part question. They're coming for businesses, companies like Audius, what Audius is doing, right? So more than likely, these big conglomerates are going to call you up and say, "Hey, look, we like the tech, keep you on board, pay you, $10 million a year, and we're going to buy your company for $1 billion, $4 billion, or whatever," right? So, one, does Audius have an exit plan for something like that if it does happen? And has Audius thought of reaching out to the major labels to figure out a way to expand on what Audius is doing to reach a broader market?
Yeah, so to the first question, I love getting to answer this because Audius can't be bought, can't be acquired. It's already owned by the community via the distribution of tokens that have reached a very broad number of folks, and those tokens both govern every sort of change and upgrade to the Audius protocol. They also govern the economics around it, everything else. But it is this fully open source, public good thing that you can't really buy, right? I guess if that makes sense. So, I won't elaborate on, or unfortunately can't elaborate on the details here, but like folks have tried to buy Audius in the past, like not understanding this, and it's like I think people aren't really used to hearing that answer that like, well, you can't. There's no number, right? And of course, some of the more aggressive acquirers, say, oh, well, everyone has a number, and it's like, no, like even it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what I want. It actually just like can't be done, right?
I love that.
So yeah, like it's the goal of the network and of the ongoing distribution of tokens through various incentives and things is to get control of this thing into the hands of the community of people that actually make it special, right? Like going all the way back to an hour ago when we were talking about the issues with SoundCloud, like that was a fundamental issue, right? There was this shareholder class of SoundCloud that was completely disjointed from the people who actually made SoundCloud special. And like that's just not the way something like this. It's not the way a media network should be structured in our view. So yeah, that's the answer. There is no exit strategy. There never will be an exit strategy. This thing will never go away so long as there are people who keep wanting to use it and engage with it and be happy with it. As things stand today, right, and since actually the day the Audius network launched, which was about 4 years ago, was when the network officially kind of crossed that threshold of being fully decentralized. Like I could go away, company I work with could go away, and everything here would just keep working, right? That's the ideal, that we've tried to hold ourselves to. So yeah. Anyway, I get kind of fired up talking about that because that's really
bro.
the core kind of thing that matters in our case, right? Or that we feel matters. But that said, to your second question, we've had great conversations with the majors, and let's just say there's perhaps some news coming soon on that front. I think back to what we said around independent versus institutionally owned content. I think they recognize that there's a exciting opportunity here potentially. So yeah. Stay tuned on that front. We'll have more to share soon. But a lot of the artists who were on that list that you just mentioned, the investor artists, right, like can't use Audius today because if they're signed to a label who doesn't work with Audius or doesn't understand Audius, they can't engage, right?
They can't be there because they're contractually obligated to their contract. Yeah, it makes 100% sense. I hope that Audius is something that continues and is here to stay for this, for what you guys have been, what you're building for, right? You're building for that artist, the independence, right? And I hope that it does come to fruition. And I know that the major labels are scared. They're scared of this blockchain, one, because they don't understand it. And two, they're scared because it's very easy now for artists. I say it's not easy to make the money, but it's easy for any artist to go independent, right? Get off their contract and then go and try and do this on their own. So, I hope that it, like you say, it ain't going anywhere. It's not going anywhere. And I hope you guys seriously really do continue to build because I think you have something cool there. And there's so many different things that you can actually plug in, so I'm not sure that if the artist has, where the consumer can buy tickets to artist show. I don't know if that's implemented inside of your thing. We had somebody on our show not too long ago, Jack from Momentify, and his platform is basically you can purchase the concert, the tickets from it through the platform, for the artist, and engage with the artist and get points and do certain things like that. So I know that Audius is going to be growing into this really, really, big thing, and I'm excited. I really want to get the alpha from you right now on what you were talking about with the major label. I know you can't say anything. And then I'm going to pass the mic to Cookie, but there was one more thing I wanted to ask. There's something new that Audius is just implemented, if I'm correct. And I don't want to break it down. I would love for you to tell us, what is the latest from Audius? What is new? What do we need to know?
Yeah, so lots of features have shipped recently, but the biggest one I think was monetization is fully publicly available now. So anyone can go sign up today, upload something, mark it as monetized, and that was just as of 2 weeks ago. Right before that, you had to be a pre-existing user that hit some threshold of engagement. So we've already seen a huge uptick in engagement on the monetized side. The so-called community split is what our community has taken to calling it, but it's really a protocol fee also went live as part of that. So there's a percentage of a 10% of every fan purchase of artist content gets actually routed back to this community treasury. So there's a pool of funds that the community can vote to allocate to issue grants to developers who are building cool things, to artists who are going to do cool things. But ultimately, it's this kind of common source of funds that the community of token holders can vote to do what they wish with. So that was a big development, and super excited to kind of see how that percolates. Beyond that, man, there have been kind of two themes of features being released lately. One is more forms of social engagement. So there's more to come over the next month or two, but things like the direct messages that you mentioned and different ways to gate messaging and things like that have shipped over the last 6 months or so. And then the other big theme of kind of exciting things happening has been on this licensing front. So really expanding the available or addressable market that the Audius network has into the artists who are signed and who have some level of infrastructure, right? Even until recently, Audius couldn't work with formal distributors, right? But we announced a integration with DistroKid a little while back. Audius supports DDEX now as well, so that's kind of the common music industry interchange format. So that opens up the doors to any distributor to integrate. So these are the themes. It's like growing the market that Audius can target via deals, integrations, everything else, and then it's deepening the engagement that can happen on Audius and tying that back to payments. So that's it. It's very simple, right? Simple approach. But
I love it, man. Thank you so much for taking the time to answer my questions. Cookie, before I pass it to you, I have two more quick things I wanted to touch on. One was, and these can be short. You can give me the short answer of it, Ronil, is podcasts. So like us, for instance, are podcasts welcome at Audius?
So they are welcome. I think there's actually a few features have gone live in the past year or so to make them kind of more of a first-class citizen. So things like being able to set playback speed, right? Or being able to, rather than have the next and reverse buttons take you to the next track, like skip 30 seconds or skip back 30 seconds. So just really simple, like creature comforts have all kind of gone live there. But yes, wholeheartedly, yes, we're super excited for podcasts to come on. What we're really excited to see actually is a podcast actually utilize the community features and monetization tools of Audius, because I actually think these tools, though they've been used only by musicians and artists to date, could actually work really well for podcasts too. Like if there's a way for a podcast to build a community around it and to kind of get all of those listeners in one place, because otherwise you don't really know who they are, where they are. Like Anchor and the tools that exist today really don't give you a lot of information back. So anyway, sorry, longer answer than you were asking for. But
no,
yeah.
it's all good. No,
Yeah.
I mean, why don't you answer it? And then the last thing before I pass the Cookie, I know Cookie's like going to kill me now because I'm asking 8 million questions, but somebody in the community, in the crypto Twitter community of music, just sold a song for 1 Bitcoin, Violetta Zeroni. What's your take on that? That's amazing, for us to hear, to know that this happened.
I think it's awesome. I mean, there's I think any other response to that news would be
You're fired.
really concerning. Yeah, right. Like, no, I think it's awesome. She is awesome. She is really pushing at the edge of what's possible, and she has done this multiple times, as in not this specific thing, but like pioneered a new approach. And I think prior to that, like there wasn't, I'm sure there were some folks who had tried to make music Bitcoin NFTs work or a thing, but nothing obviously to this level of scale or success. So I think that's that kind of energy that that keeps us waking up every day and doing what we do. It's seeing these incredible artists who like really are pushing the boundaries of what you can do with us or with anyone, right? And it's those people that are operating right at the edge that push us to do better, right? That's actually where I like to say all of our best feature ideas have come from, right? It's not we're pretty stupid on that front. It's kind of seeing what people are using our stuff to do today, and then building things to make that easier is like so much better than trying to invent things that you don't know if people will do or not, because you already see that people are doing it. If you can make it easier for them, they'll have a better time. More people will do it, right? So like
absolutely.
I try and be very very humble on that front, right? Like our ability to generate ideas that we think will drive usage tends to be pretty poor compared to our actual users' ability to generate those ideas. So
that's right. And just going back to the word that I mentioned in the 2-minute tune-up, which is confidence. So there's Violetta. She's got the confidence to do it, to push herself, to get out there. You see that she's going around, whether she's at these conferences that are blockchain conferences or Web3 conferences, or she's doing a club date or whatever it is. She's actually literally getting out there. She's got a passion for it. And that's how she actually got there, from that hard work. It didn't just show up. She's been doing a lot of things. So I think that goes back to what I was saying earlier. She just has that confidence, and that's why she got it. That's why she did it. There's no other way. Yeah, she just did it by pushing herself and having that confidence. My man, Cookie, by the way, Ronil, thank you so much, man. I greatly appreciate you answering these questions. Cookie, I'm going to pass the mic to you. I'm going to let you have it here to end the show with us. Cookie, can't hear you.
Sorry about that, guys. I've been on mute for about 45 minutes to an hour and a half.
Yeah. You
Anyway,
don't need the napkin, by the way. You don't need it.
Okay. So anyway, Hef, thank you very much. And thank you, Ronil. I appreciate you so much for coming on the show. I have so many questions, and I'm going to explore Audius in a lot more detail. Okay. I don't want to hold up your time. I know you had an appointment, but thank you, guys. It's been a great show, and I really enjoyed it. Thanks.
Oh, thank you all so much for having me. This was a ton of fun. It's a lot of fun to talk with folks like you all who've spent so much time thinking about this area, and you are ultimately as musicians the group that we're trying our best to serve. Right? It's a lot of fun.
Oh, I didn't have my mic on. So yeah, thank you so much for spending the time with us. Enjoy the dinner with your buddy, and hopefully we can get you back on because I want to know what that alpha was that you were hinting toward. Yeah, and we look forward to hopefully maybe we can chat about getting some events maybe going during these some of these conferences to help promote Audius as well as Just Riffin. And so I greatly appreciate you taking the time to come on and hang out with us. And so thank you again, everybody. This has been Just Riffin. We do it every Tuesday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Our special guest was Ronil Romberg, the co-founder from Audius. Again, Ronil, thank you again for hanging out with us. Greatly appreciated. Have a beautiful night, everybody. Cookie, thank you very much. And we will see you all soon. Thank you. Peace.
Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in.
Just ribbon. Tuesday night, 8:30 EST. Know where we be. Just ribbon. Special guest and second talk. A musicology. Just ribbon. Coming to you live at the same time. Here every week. Just ribbon. Jump in the room. Let's chop it up. It really ain't that deep. Just ribbon.